At Jim Cornette's channel, you're not gonna see the things YouTube gurus preach about. It's probably the most basic wrestling channel that exists. But despite looking like an outlaw mud show next to the other wrestling channels, Jim Cornette's channel is a juggernaut that averages just under 500,000 views each day. See, Jim's channel has one thing that wrestling fans want and few others can deliver. Jim has Jim. And love him or hate him, you will acknowledge him. So let's take a look at how Camp Cornette reaches millions of wrestling fans every single day through pure YouTube SEO. Welcome to Video SEO Club. Starting on Jim Cornette's channel homepage, you'll notice there's not a whole lot to look at. When you click the About Me section, you'll see a very stern warning about the copywritten material you'll find on Jim's channel, which is very litigious. So I'll just say we're doing this review out of astonishment that Jim's been so successful on YouTube, yet ignored so many of the different strategies pontificated by the thought leaders of the day. Jim's not using the community tab, and you don't see live or shorts up here because Jim has never done those things. Matter of fact, the only time I think Jim ever appeared on camera was on this playlist here called Corny Cameo. And this obviously was used to promote his Cameo page, which is not linked in the description. One of the main places that Jim actually focuses his efforts on YouTube are on these playlists, most of which actually correspond to his podcast that you'll find here. And these podcasts are updated regularly. Jim's channel really shines on the thumbnails. The artist Travis Heckle meticulously recreates scenes that Jim speaks about during his podcasts, and the artwork of Travis Heckle has been a very distinguishing branding strategy for Jim Cornette's channel. I guarantee every wrestling fan has seen at least one of Jim's thumbnails. And while you can argue about the artistic abilities of Travis Heckle, but what you can't argue with is the click-through rate on these videos, and Travis's ability to incorporate inside jokes into nearly every thumbnail. This definitely contributes to Jim's dominance on YouTube. There's really nothing else to talk about on Jim's homepage. There's not even any links to his website, but we'll talk about that later. So we're gonna take a look at how Jim actually makes his videos and see what these descriptions look like. So here's his most recent one from 15 hours ago. There actually is no video. The video is the thumbnail. But in the last 15 hours, this video's received 36,000 views. There's not much of a description here, but Jim doesn't really need one. And I'll explain why when we cover the SEO section. You'll notice that there's no live links in here. The 605 Super Podcast isn't linked. Patreon's linked, but this Patreon hasn't been updated since 2021. 391 comments on this video. People are engaged. People want Jim Cornette. And that's exactly why this description doesn't matter. Because people are actively seeking Jim Cornette and his opinions about professional wrestling. Because 812,000 are searching his name every month with a competition rank of 33%. And you can see some of the matching terms here. Jim Cornette, Vince McMahon, 10,000 searches. Jim Cornette Experience, 6,000 searches. Jim Cornette Undertaker, 6,000 searches. Jim Cornette Vince Russo, 5,000 searches. Jim Cornette Tony Khan, 4,000 searches. Even over here, it's not wrestling related, but Will Smith Jim Cornette, 2,000 searches. The vast combinations of search terms here with Jim Cornette's name in there should signal to the trained YouTube SEO eye one thing. The main draw on Jim Cornette's channel is Jim Cornette. Now, it's difficult for me to determine if this was done from expertise or just out of habit. What's in every title? Jim's name is in every title. Even if we sort this by most popular video, each one of these videos with all these views have Jim Cornette's name in the title. The titles are perfect. And I bet that those titles are helping Jim get all 812,000 searches every month on his name, while the competition is only 33%. If we look at the videos here that are actually ranking for Jim Cornette on YouTube, yeah, some of them are going to be other channels, and you can tell by the signature thumbnails, the vast majority of the videos are on Cornette's channel. And I believe that has a lot to do with that litigious statement, likely authored by Jim Cornette's attorney, Stephen P. New, and also these amazing titles that Jim and his team are putting on these videos. Jim is controlling his branded SEO. That's a really good thing for a YouTube channel to control. It's very impressive. So if we look at how Social Blade ranks Jim Cornette's channel, you'll see, despite the statistics not being absolute, he's averaging 400,000 views a day. Social Blade estimates 100 to 1.6 thousand, but I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to that money, especially for legal reasons. Can't really say that that's what he earns, but these are estimated earnings from Social Blade. They kind of know what they do over there, so that's on them. But each week, Jim gets about 2.8 million views, 1.4 thousand subscribers every week, 6,000 subscribers a month, and 12 million views on his channel. Here's what that growth looks like for Jim. Likely seeing peaks on days where there's more posts or maybe new episodes of the podcast. But let's take a look and see how Jim lines up against Bruce Pritchard and Vince Russo, two of his favorite podcasters. Official Jim Cornette versus Something to Wrestle With Bruce Pritchard versus Vince Russo. So we're going to take a look and see how they line up for subscriber growth. And you can see the red line there is Jim, the blue line is Something to Wrestle With, and the purple line is Vince Russo. So this is kind of showing you the growth dating back to last year, and it's really no comparison. And when we look at the growth on views over the last year, it's even more obvious. Red line's Jim, the blue line's Bruce, and the purple line is Vince. When you look at the channel breakdowns here, Jim Cornette has 517 million views on his channel. Bruce Pritchard has 20 million views on his channel. Vince Russo has 9 million views on his channel. Jim has 409,000 subscribers. Bruce has 120,000 subscribers, and Vince Russo has 48,000 subscribers. Jim's uploaded 7,000 videos, Bruce has uploaded 2.8 thousand, and Vince has uploaded 1.7 thousand. And interestingly enough, both Bruce Pritchard and Vince Russo have been doing YouTube much longer than Jim if you look at it. Russo had a 3-year head start on Jim, and Bruce had a 6-year start on Jim. They're kind of getting dominated. There's the estimated earnings. Like I said, who knows how true that is? But one thing I do know is Cornette can sell some collectibles, but we'll talk about that in a couple minutes here. I did a video on the meteoric rise of Maven Huffman and his YouTube channel, and Maven's doing great, and he continues to do great. Let's see how he lines up against Jim Cornette. So interestingly enough, Maven just started up back in July of 2023, and you see that blue line is catching up to that red line a little bit. And I think it's for a similar reason. You see, both Jim and Maven give a really unfiltered account of what their life was like in WWE. And that's something that Bruce Pritchard, and even Vince Russo to a degree, probably doesn't really want to do. Bruce because he still works at WWE, and Vince because deep down he probably wants to work at WWE, or at least some other organization. Jim is content, Maven's content, and that translates in their content. No pun intended. And while Maven's subscribers are catching up to Jim's, you'll notice that Maven's views are nowhere near Jim Cornette's. And that's because Jim Cornette has been involved in wrestling since he was a little boy, and he can talk about literally every aspect of wrestling. He could talk about the stuff that predates his involvement in wrestling. He could talk about the things he was directly involved in. And he can also talk about modern wrestling because people really want to hear what he has to say. You definitely find his perspective interesting, if not triggering. Now, you heard me reference Cornette's collectibles earlier, and this is where Jim makes a lot of money. You see, we have photos, action figures, Cult of Cornette membership, books, DVDs. Yeah, you remember those things? T-shirts, some very special Midnight Express merchandise, and also a restraining order. Oh, I guess that's sold out. Bro. The point of that is, anyone who regularly listens to Jim Cornette's podcast knows he shuts this website down multiple times per year because he can't handle the orders. So despite not having any clickable links in his actual YouTube videos, people are seeking Cornette out because they want to buy his products. He doesn't have to push it too hard. He doesn't have to put the links in there because the value he gives through his podcast and through his YouTube videos is so much so that people go and find him. Could he be making more money if those links worked in the description? Maybe, who knows? But he must be doing pretty good if he shuts down the store several times per year because he can't handle the volume. And Jim Cornette really is all about volume. You see here, in the last week, Jim has uploaded 31 videos. And we know he's not doing any shorts, so those are all long-form cuts from his podcast. And in that week, he's got 2.9 million views, and he's gained 1,000 subscribers. In the last 6 months, Jim's uploaded 987 YouTube videos. None of them are shorts. He's also gained 32,000 subscribers and received 67 million views. So why are people so interested in a wrestling manager who hasn't been active in wrestling in several years? It's because Jim Cornette is polarizing. Of the 12 million views Jim gets each month, it's realistic to think 6 million of those views came from people that absolutely hate him. Because even if you disagree with what Corny has to say, you know it's how he truly feels about the subject. Or at least how he wants you to think he feels. Because Jim has zero filter when it comes to his opinion. I think most modern pro wrestling fans aren't used to the authenticity. As a lot of the creators are worried about sponsorships or getting favor with specific promotions, Jim doesn't care about any of that. Jim's videos remind me of the shock jocks that dominated radio in the 90s. Even those guys aren't doing as good as Jim is, and you can learn all about that in this video outlining the YouTube efforts of Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony, Bubba the Love Sponge, and Mancow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Video SEO Club.